Are you bored living a mediocre life? We were too, and we know how to change that. Each week, we'll leave our comfort zones to explore a new topic, then step onto our soapboxes, a safe space to sound off on our latest adventure. Come explore with us. All opinions are welcome. This is a mindset. This is a lifestyle. This is Siren Soapbox.
Hello and welcome, fellow explorers. Thank you for diving in with us today. Our mission is to explore beyond comfort zones. Let us inspire you to explore. Visit sirensoapbox.com. We have a link for a free month of Audible, information on upcoming challenges, a link to our coloring book, and information on our new magazine coming out in May. Join us now, guaranteed to spark some exploration. We were inspired last week by our conversation with Jacob Norby to dive back into personality types. Check out episode 77, The Creative Cure. It was such a fun and inspiring episode. During our conversation, Jacob said that...
And so self-discovery for me, and I use all sorts of tools. I'm a self-discovery kind of junkie, so I love all of the tools, Myers-Briggs and Strength Finder and astrology and Enneagram and all of these things, especially overlaying them. But self-discovery, finding out this is who I am, this is what I love, this is what I've been neglecting in myself. This is what I've shut down in myself. And that leads to this amazing self-acceptance. And it's a lot of people try to leap right into the self-acceptance. It's like trying to affirm I'm full of love, peace, and joy without actually acknowledging the parts that don't feel peaceful or loving or joyful. But this all leads to transformation. And transformation, as I see it, is not at all the model that most of us have grown up around in spirituality or religion, where it's you find somebody who's the model of this behavior, who's successful in these ways, and then all you have to do is match their behavior. I don't see it that way. I see transformation as discovering who we really are and then becoming that, kind of like the acorn trying to become a pine tree, and always frustrated and depressed, until someday some wise crow or something comes along and says, all you have to do is become the code that was already in the acorn. Like, just become that.
Through this conversation, we realized we need to find out what Sarah's Enneagram is. And we also wanted to overlay another personality test to dive deeper into self-discovery like Jacob discussed. For this episode, we're going to recap Enneagrams and then layer that with the 16 personalities test. For a refresher, way back in episode 16, over 50 episodes ago, with that screeching seagull timer in all its glory, the Sirens explored Enneagrams. Enneagram is simply a map for self-discovery and personal growth based on 9 basic personality types. The Enneagram accurately and clearly describes the way you think, feel, and behave in particular ways based on your core fears and core desires, according to YourEnneagramCoach.com. Siren Jess is a 2, nurturing supporter. Type 2s are people who see the world through relationships and define themselves through service to others. Sirens Myrrh, TC, and LC are 7s, enthusiastic optimist. Type 7s are well-rounded, affirming, and generous, and have an insatiable appetite for excitement. In just a moment, we're going in soapbox order to guess Sarah's personality type. But before she reveals her number, we are going to guess which of the 4 categories we fall into in the 16 personality test. According to 16personalities.com, they use the acronym format introduced by Myers-Briggs for its simplicity and convenience, with an extra letter to accommodate 5 rather than 4 scales. We've instead chosen to rework and rebalance the dimensions of the personality called the 5 Big Personality Traits, a model that dominates modern psychological and social research. Those 5 personalities are introverted versus extroverted, intuitive versus observant, thinking versus feeling, judging versus prospecting, assertive versus turbulent. Based on what combination of those 5 scales you get from your test results, it will determine which of the 16 personalities you have. The 16 personalities can be broken into 4 categories. Those are analysts, known for their rationality and intellectual excellence. Diplomats, known for their empathy and passionate idealism. Sentinels, known for their practicality and focus on order and stability. Explorers, known for their spontaneity and flexibility. It's a lot, but let's dive in. First, if at any time the conversation gets too intense, the safe word is
mango.
Mango. In soapbox order, let's guess Sarah's Enneagram number. Mer, you're up first.
All right. So I think Sarah is a number 6. I think she's a loyalist because it is described very succinctly as committed and security oriented. There also might be a little tagline about being suspicious. And I think that is ties along with her I love cats personality. Jess?
How bad is it? Okay. So I think Sarah is a 6 due to
Oh, it's hilarious.
Quick, get it out. You can do it. Do it.
Go. I think Sarah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Try again.
You're waiting too long. Do it.
Okay, I think Sarah is a 6. I think I base this on her numerology and the colors episode.
Well, I also think Sarah is an Enneagram 6, the faithful guardian. She seems to like to be prepared when approaching something new. They are also described as loyalists, which reminded me of when she talks about her family. They are also suspicious. When I read that, I pictured Sarah saying, yeah, right, which I think we've heard a time or two. Also, back to the magic numbers, I believe hers was a 6. TC, what do you got?
So you've all convinced me that maybe she's a 6, but I originally thought she was a 3 because she is success oriented. She is also adaptive and driven. And I don't know, I thought maybe she was a 3, the achiever.
TC, I was going to pick a 3 until I read the 6 description. So that's interesting.
Well, so we'll start off by saying that, well, I can't say, well, we'll say that maybe there's some right and there's some wrong, and we'll just go from there. How about that? Otherwise, it may give too much away. So we'll move on to the other personality testing, and I will give that Mer was an explorer because of the spontaneity and ingenuity. That's what I came up with from her. LC, I also thought was an explorer for the same reasons, the spontaneity, flexibility. Jess, I was pretty confident you were a diplomat just because of your empathy and your diplomatic skills. And who have I not done? TC, well, again, an explorer. I don't know if it's because you were all 7s, it's just sort of similar. It's that sort of explorer personality. So that's what I went with, that spontaneity, ingenuity, flexibility. It all just seemed to go. So there you go.
Okay. So I guessed that in soapbox order, well, really I can just group them up because Mer, LC, and TC, I guessed explorer because they all basically got the same with the Enneagram, which has the adventure and spontaneity, and yeah, I mean, it made it easy. Sarah, I guessed, was a type sentinel. I did not break them down into subcategories, but Sarah, I guessed sentinel because of loyalty, empathy, basically everything that I guess the type 6 Enneagram for. So next, LC, what's your guess?
Well, first, I'm going to say that I'm praying for you, Jess, that Sarah is also not a type 7, because if that's the case, then you're screwed and you just know it now. It's okay. You'll survive. Yeah, you will. You will. For the 16 personalities in Soapbox order, I think Myrrh is an explorer because she seems spontaneous, bold, and like the life of the party. For Sarah, I thought Sentinel, maybe even more specifically the logician. Did I say that right? Maybe because she seems logical and fact-minded, which I can see being very helpful for her job. For Jess, I put Sentinel, maybe more specifically a consul because of her Enneagram for needing security, caring for people, and helpful. And TC, I think, is an explorer. And if she's not, I'm willing to guess that she took the personality test again to see if she got a different result. And I picked this because she likes to experiment with new things, live on the edge, and is adventurous. What you got, TC?
All right, I'm going in some random order that I wrote them down. I guessed that LC is an explorer because she explores. And I just felt that that really encapsulated who she is. Jess, I guessed was a sentinel. And specifically, I guessed that she was a defender because she regularly comes to the defense of everyone. And Sarah, I guessed, was the analyst and specifically the architect in the analyst area because she is a strategic thinker and she does have a plan for everything. She's also imaginative. Myrrh, I guessed the diplomat. And I guess the reason that I thought specifically the mediator, because of the description, poetic, kind, and altruistic. And she's always eager to help a good cause. And she really is. Like, she's such a good person. It's amazing to me. So that's what I think everyone is. And Myrrh, what do you think everyone is?
Well, that was super flattering, TC. Thank you for that. Sarah, I guessed, was a sentinel, but more specifically a defender, because she is always very protective of her loved ones. She makes it very clear to us that that's important to her. Jess, I chose the same thing that LC did, a sentinel, specifically a consul, for all the same reasons that LC picked. Mostly because Jess is just always so eager to help people. And that was one of the defining personalities of that personality type. LC, this will be a shocker, but I chose explorer, specifically adventurer. And I think that is, all right. So the first line of the description of the adventurer is flexible and charming artists. And I was immediately made me think of Elsie. And then TC, I had a tough time deciding for you. I chose two. The first one I chose was an analyst, specifically the commander. And that's because you are very bold and imaginative, and you will find a flipping way to get something done if you want to get it done. But then, like LC said, I was wondering why I didn't choose Explorer for you, which is a little hilarious. So then I thought maybe you've kind of closely fit the entrepreneur as well because of your energy, and people just really enjoy being with you, and you're very adventurous and smart. And those are all the things that I thought about you. So I am really curious to find out what everyone's real personalities were. So for me, I think for all of us, we took the 16 personalities assessment, and I found that I am exactly the same person I was when I took the assessment a year ago. I don't know why I took it then, but I did. And I feel comfort in knowing that I am who I am. And who I am is An assertive campaigner, that is a diplomat. So TC, you were pretty right on. You guessed the diplomat, but not the correct subcategory. Very close. And after reading the description, I completely agree with the assessment. So the campaigner is a diplomat type, just like I said, and they're known for their empathy and diplomatic skills. According to 16personalities.com, that is. And one statement in the campaigner's description totally stood out to me. It says, these personalities believe that everything and everyone is connected, and they live for the glimmers of insight that they can gain into these connections. Now, I've believed for years that we're all connected, and that's what's best for you is best for everyone. So saith the universe. Another piece of the description reads, these personalities radiate a positive energy that draws in other people, and campaigners may find themselves being held up by their peers as a leader or guru. But once the initial bloom of inspiration wears off, campaigners can struggle with self-discipline and consistency, losing steam on projects that once meant so much to them. I live this. I feel this description deeply. Let's take my handmade journals, for example. I loved learning how to make them. I loved painting the covers and stitching the binding. But once I felt like I mastered the skill, I found it boring and I no longer have the same passion for creating them. This is a pattern that I see repeated over and over again in my life. Learning how to roller skate, distance running, beekeeping, propagating houseplants. These things all once sparked incredible joy until I felt bored with them and moved on to the next shiny thing. So this also screams 7, which is my Enneagram type. 7s tend to get super excited about learning new things. Then we master them rather quickly, get bored, and move on to the next distraction. And I have a love-hate relationship with that aspect of my personality. I do love my thirst for knowledge and my natural curiosity, but I could really just pick something I would love to do for the rest of my life and get on with already too. Dang. Sarah, we are dying to know, what is your Enneagram type?
Well, I'm pretty sure actually that I did this Enneagram test earlier this year, but I seem to remember rushing through it and I couldn't find the email with those results. Plus, I remember feeling not very confident in my answers for a couple of reasons. I do remember feeling rushed at the time, and I didn't love the way the questions were presented. So I decided to start fresh and do it all over. I can't remember if I ended up with the same results, but I do know that I still don't really love the questions. I mean, sometimes they're really confusing and contradictory, or at least the topics in the questions didn't seem to relate. But I'm not a psychologist, so maybe they do somehow. But anyway, it seems that I am a, drumroll please, a number 6. I am the loyal guardian, dependable, committed, a team player. At my best, I'm reliable and loyal with a good sense of humor. And I would agree with all of that. But you know, I really got so confused with this whole description because the brief description got really, really weird, talking about what happens when I forget the truth of the gospel. So it really kind of lost a lot of credibility with me at that point. So I looked a little bit more at the intense description, and it sure was pretty intense. But in general, there were some parts that made sense, but I don't know if I agree with it all. Anyway, moving on to the 16 personalities test. It was a little easier to take. I think the questions were a little more focused. You know, it didn't list a bunch of, you know, you had to say that you feared all of these things and you had to try and read each one and see which, I don't know. Anyway, moving on. It was a little easier to take this one. I apparently am a sentinel defender. Specifically, I am introverted, observant, feeling, judging, and turbulent. Those are my letters or my personality aspects. I think this test might be a little more accurate, at least for me, even though those terms don't necessarily describe what they mean. I mean, turbulent doesn't mean turbulent, you know, but it does describe me self-conscious and sensitive to stress. But the introverted part is really spot on. I don't love social events, and I can be pretty sensitive to external stimulation like sounds and smells, which is the way they describe an introvert. Interestingly, defenders are loyal, reliable, committed, and fear rejection. And those are all traits that are found in the type 6 people. So yeah, maybe I answered those confusing questions better than I thought I did. So Jess, had you ever done a Myers-Briggs test before?
I had never even heard of a Myers-Briggs test until last week when we were talking to Jacob. So I was pretty interested to see how accurate it was and how much it matched up with my Enneagram. Turns out, very accurate. I am a type console under the Sentinel. So apparently I am pretty easy to read. So my strengths and weaknesses lined up very well. And I like to see how the results are broken down into sections with tips on interpersonal and romantic relationships. So you can see how your personality type really affects those. I also like the summary in each section so you can decide how far down that rabbit hole that you really want to go. I think my Enneagram results still speak to me more as far as my core strengths and weaknesses. I also like how it gave my breakdown of the other personality types so that I can see what areas I had strengths in. And in my Enneagram, I do also have 83% type 7. So it makes me wonder if I really had that before the soapbox, or if the type 7s are really just trying to sway me over to their side. But apparently it's working. So anyway, LC, what category do you fall into?
I fall into the diplomat category, more specifically the assertive protagonist. I've taken the Myers-Briggs before, and I was not surprised by my letter results. The first 4 were exactly the same as when I took the test in high school. The addition of this test's 5th letter, A for assertive, did not surprise me. I am always surprised that my results show extroverted. I think of myself as a talkative introvert. When you finally get me out of my shell, that is, my shell as my family calls it. I was really hoping that I would be in the explorer category because I think of myself as adventurous and creative. I really thought I was going to be the adventurer, like Mer said. That's funny. She looks at me the same way I think I have myself, which is great. But they are introverted, like to explore, and are artistic. And these are all things I would definitely describe myself as. Upon further investigation of the assertive protagonist type, and having to get over the fact that I'm not their type of explorer, I do think that I fit into this category. I typically find myself in leadership roles in many situations. I've had several supervisor and managerial roles. I've led a couple of retreats, and I've been a coach. It can be awkward at times because sometimes people look to me to lead and I'm not really sure if it's my place or if I'm overstepping my bounds. I think that my resting bitch face might have something to do with maybe looking like I have some sort of authority. I don't know. I think that if I had to choose between Enneagram and 16 personalities, Enneagram seems more accurate, or at least certainly more fun. See? So type 7 again. However, I think that in doing this and layering it with Enneagram, astrology, numerology, color, DNA, even Cookology, and the Book of Questions, they're all helping me to better understand who I am. And I've got to say that every single one of those self-discovery exercises have been accurate so far. I can't wait to see what self-discovery journey we go on next. TC, what did you think your personality style would be?
Well, I really wanted to be an explorer. I see myself as an explorer. I specifically wanted to be an adventurer. Second choice, entrepreneur. I actually, Elsie, you were right, took the test many times in an attempt to be an explorer. I could not be an explorer. In all of the times I took the test, I could actually only get 2 different results, which left me wondering, how in the hell do people get other results? I couldn't force other results. I only got 2. The majority of the time, I was the campaigner, which is a diplomat. I was a diplomat campaigner. The other result that I was able to get was the debater, which is an analyst. So Mer was closest when she said that she thought I was an analyst. I noticed that every explorer type has an S, which is an observant, over an N, which is intuitive, which is why the 3 of us, none of us got the explorer because we're all very intuitive. Since I'm a very intuitive person and I believe in intuition, the explorer was just not written in the stars for me. I was surprised by the results. but I feel like they must be accurate since I couldn't even force the results I wanted. Personality tests always get me out of my comfort zone because what if I don't like who I am? I feel like that's kind of lame, but it's true. So I am an Enneagram 7 and an ENFP A. In fact, my A, which is assertive, is really high. I am 92% assertive. Who's surprised by that?
Not me.
Yeah, no one. No one. I completely agree with my Enneagram number. I live and breathe that I'm a 7. I will continue to be a 7. And when people ask me who I am, I'm a 7. I'm a 7. I'm a Sagittarius 7. I need to work on accepting, maybe even embracing my Myers-Briggs number. I'm curious to know how many of you are assertive versus turbulent. Who else was assertive?
Tracy, not only am I assertive, we have the exact same letters.
And
Time out.
the three 7s are all diplomats. What
Mhm.
happened there?
Time out. I took this test last year. I don't know if we were looking into this last year for an episode, but for some reason I took it last year too. I did a different email, took it again blind, and I was last year a campaigner. And I will send you the receipts, but I know I'm a different person than I am from last year. And now I guess I'm the protagonist, but still diplomat.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's crazy that the three of us are all diplomats.
So sorry.
My
The rest of
biggest
the girls.
fear was that I was going to be a diplomat and Mur and Elsie were both going to be explorers. And I was going to be so sad by that.
I was going to be really sad by that too. And then when we're getting into it, I'm like, we're not actually going to be explorers. I know this.
You can't because all of the explorers have an S, which is observant
S.
versus intuitive.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so I couldn't even force it. I was trying so hard. I even read the description for an explorer and then tried again. Nope.
Oh my
couldn't do it.
God. Sarah, you were turbulent, right?
Yeah, but only 56%.
That's
Hmm.
barely turbulent. Jess, what were you?
I was turbulent. I'm trying to find the actual
Makes sense.
things again.
So I am assertive, but mine's only 64%. So
Elsie, what were you?
Oh, I think I just closed that window. Let me scroll up. Hold on.
Okay.
I must have answered my questions very wishy-washy because I was pretty borderline on a lot of these.
my highest percentage was 77%, and that was for the extroverted category.
All of my numbers were high. Extroverted was 74, intuitive was 81, prospecting was 74, assertive was freaking 92. The only one that went back and forth for me was the thinking versus feeling, which is why I ended up between those two.
How do
mine
we
was
find this now?
68%. It's got the summary in your email.
Yeah.
That's where I ended up finding it.
Hmm.
So my extroverted is 53%. So apparently I'm an extroverted introvert.
I always thought I was an extroverted introvert, but I was 74% extroverted. In fact, every time I took the test, I was extroverted. I could not be introverted.
I'm also 72% judging. So sorry. Apparently I judge a lot.
I wonder.
77% feeling though. Who's surprised by that result? Because I'm not.
I am not surprised by that. My feeling is pretty high as well, as 67%.
I was 51 feeling and 49 thinking. I don't know how you can get much closer than that.
Yeah, that's very close.
Means you're well balanced, TC.
Hmm?
All right, I found it. I am 53 assertive.
Yahoo! You found it.
This is a lot harder to navigate than Enneagram, I thought. Did anybody else think that?
It's very complicated because judging, and it's not intuitive. Judging, right? So you think, well, that doesn't sound very nice. That sounds very judgy, right? But no, their definition of judging These people are decisive, thorough, highly organized. They value clarity, predictability, and closure, preferring structure and planning to spontaneity. Well, I mean, that's very positive, right?
That is very positive.
That's not judgy, which is what I would have thought when I first read it. I thought, what? Same thing with turbulent. I thought, well, I don't consider myself to be a particularly turbulent person, but a turbulent person is self-conscious, yes, and sensitive to stress, yes, very. Likely to experience a wide range of emotions, and to be success-driven, yes, perfectionistic, and eager to improve. Well, not if there's a couch around, but so turbulent is not very intuitive, right? Turbulent,
you're right,
kind of brings to mind chaotic, but you really have to study. This is a lot of work, a lot of studying, which for me, and I have to admit, I didn't study Explorer and all of the nuances of it. I just thought, heck, Explorer, duh. So, and same thing with the Diplomat. I didn't study Diplomat, and had I read it, and studied it very thoroughly, I might have made better guesses, but because it's very in depth, I would say.
I was basing it on, like, it seemed like a lot of the artistic and creative ones were under Explorer. And I mean, that's, to me, those three. Like, very
I really wanted to be
artistic brained and creative. And so
we tried to make you that way, Tracy.
I tried so hard.
We did.
Well, we tried too.
Yeah, we
So
did.
I did find an article that tells you the correlation between Enneagram and Myers-Briggs.
Oh,
So now that we know everyone's Enneagram, a type 2 Enneagram, the correlation is the feeling types. So Jess, you have an F in yours? She's muted, but she's saying yes and nodding.
I'm saying yes. It's ESFJT.
Okay. And then type 6 is Sarah, and the correlation is introverted and sensing. Do you have an I and an S, Sarah?
I and an F.
An I and an F.
Or I and an O, observant
versus, no, the O is sensing. It's just different because we did the type 16. So that's still accurate.
Sarah, what are your letters?
ISFJ. So yes, S. So confusing.
ISFJ-T, right?
Yes. So yes, observant is S.
Yeah. So that's correct on
Obviously.
yours. And then for the type 7s, extroverted, an E, and perceiving, a P. And I don't know what perceiving matches with in the one we took. I should have done that. It's intuition. So that would be the N, I think.
yeah.
Let me look. Yeah.
Intuitive.
Extroverted intuition or extroverted sensing. Although we were all extroverted intuition, both of which are perceptive, explorative, and novelty oriented. We might be novelty oriented.
Just a little bit. Oh my gosh. New shiny thing.
Well, Mur, I love that you said, like, you're like, I wish I could just pick something already. Like, no, don't pick anything. Let's explore something new every single week, because that is the whole premise of our entire podcast.
Oh, this is a good point.
So did anybody else have a hard time? Like, I think Elsie and Mur, maybe you too, I don't know. I very much wanted to be the explorer. Did anyone else really want to be in the category? And Elsie, it was so funny that you said, I bet you took it again. And I took it up. I bet I took it 7 times. And
I said that because I took it again, wanting to be the explorer. And I'm like, I bet TC did too. And I got the same exact thing. And I'm like, that's funny, because I thought maybe I'd get the same thing as last year. No, I got the same thing as I got the first time. Just like the percentages changed a little bit, which is interesting, because I'm like, how can I answer this to get something completely different?
I know, that's how I felt. The first 2 times I took it, I got the exact same thing. So then I read descriptions and I'm like, all right, let's see what happens now. Is that really how I feel? Let me answer again. And I couldn't. And I'm thinking, how the heck we all are going to be the same thing? Because there's no other way to answer these questions.
That is so funny. When I took it, I was not, I don't know. I didn't have any expectations. I was a little surprised, I guess, that I didn't show up under the explorer category, but I think it's because we have just gone and labeled ourselves explorers. And this is what I think. We are explorers. It doesn't matter what any personality test says. I think that's just it's a personality trait of being a diplomat.
That's true. I mean, it's their own definition of that word, like explorer. It's their own definition of explorer. Like Sarah was saying with turbulent, it's a different definition.
In creating the intro for this episode, I found it very difficult to find any background on the 16 personalities. They have it. It's a really long page. Like
it's Carl Jung. It's all Carl Jung stuff.
Wait, that sounds familiar. Is that from?
Yes.
Oh no! What is it from?
But that's not the philosophy. So she's talking about the book, The Courage to be Disliked, which is not Carl Jung, but Carl Jung and that philosopher were buddies, right? Who didn't always necessarily see eye to eye. Adlerian, isn't it?
Adlerian,
Joseph Adler. Yeah, and I'm much more Joseph Adler than Carl Jung. After reading that book, I'm the only Siren who liked that book. But anyway.
This Siren didn't finish that book, so there's that.
I know.
This Siren says, you didn't miss out on anything.
I liked it.
I was going to have to really try to force myself to finish it, but thankfully I didn't have to.
That's how I feel about it, Jess. I'm like, thank goodness we decided to not have that episode. I know it's a big fat yet. I know I'm going to have to face it at some point, but I haven't done it yet.
It'll just help you refresh your memory when you have to finish it.
That's right.
Okay, so wait, now that we all know who we are, who was right on who? Like, I knew Mer was a diplomat. I was just wrong. I called her a mediator, but she was a campaigner. And here's the thing. I wanted to call her a campaigner because secretly I want Mer to be what I am. But I was a campaigner and I thought, oh, that's too much to hope for. I'm going to call her something else. Plus, she's mostly better than me. So I figured she had to be something different.
Oh, that was a really flattering thing to say. But I am not surprised for the exact same thing because we are Trary.
We are Trary. And I was right on Jess. I was right on Jess being a sentinel. I just guessed her as a defender and she was a consul. And I think I was wrong on everyone else.
I was right on both of Sarah's. Sarah, I love you.
Love you too. Clearly you know me very well. I'm touched.
I was the only one who was wrong on Sarah, and I've known her a lot longer than the rest of you.
I love everything that you were saying about me. I love that you thought I was all those things. I got everybody wrong, so.
I got Sarah's Enneagram and her 16 or Myers-Briggs personality type exactly right.
I feel like I'm too easy.
Yeah, I got Sarah's Enneagram and I got the category. I did not get her exact type, and I got Jess's right.
I got Jess's dead on too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got Jess's dead on, which was funny. But I did not get Mer and TC because I think we have chokehold ourselves into thinking we are explorers.
Well, I liked being called a defender. It made me feel like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I was like,
artificial intelligence episode told me that I was a adventurer over and over and over. So I just really wanted to be an explorer adventurer. That would have been awesome.
Just need a tack professional on the front of it.
I know.
Yeah. All right. So now that we've done a whole bunch of these, like looking back, what has been everybody's favorite?
It's easy for me. Sagittarius and number 7. Enneagram 7 and Sagittarius, I think, are very me.
I think the Enneagram.
I think that I don't really have a favorite. I think that everyone that we've done have kind of described who I am. I'm kind of with Jacob Nordby on this. Like all these different disciplines have been very fascinating. Of course, Myers-Briggs is my favorite because it's the one we're currently doing.
That's so Mer.
And then she's going to say this is her new favorite episode at the end of
Right.
it.
Sarah, do you have a favorite?
I don't know that I don't really know that I have a favorite. I get really irritated when I'm doing the tests, because I get irritated doing tests in general. And then I can always find something in each one that I think fits. And then I don't know, I always find something kind of bullshitty in them as well that just doesn't make any sense. And so then I always question it. So there's always, but I don't know. I'm sure that there's a personality trait in there that we haven't quite found yet that just kind of questions everything a little bit. Just, like the Enneagram one, when it started describing all the, I mean, if my Enneagram thing that says to me that, I mean, if I read it, that when I forget the truth of the gospel, I'm plagued with uncertainty. But then when my misplaced fears, suspicions, and doubts often erode my trust in God. I mean, when it starts telling me stuff like that, then I start really doubting the whole thing, which is, that's my, my being, the true agnostic in me just starts to think, well, if you're relating it all to God, then I don't know how much faith I can put into your whole evaluation. You know what I mean? So then I start questioning the whole thing. So then I go to, well, maybe the Myers-Briggs is a little more realistic, but I don't know. Then I look at,
I've been told that, well, that Enneagram test in particular is very religious heavy, which is probably why you're struggling with it a bit. But I also, and I don't know how accurate this is, Enneagram is kind of like the religious version of looking at astrology and trying to understand personalities, which is where I've been the most fascinated with the magic numbers and colors, because that was kind of dipping in the woo-woo section that was uncomfortable for me. And I'm like, wow, it's kind of crazy how accurate that is. And it makes me want to explore that more.
It was strange though, because none of the questions in that test really would have led me to think that the explanations about the types was going to have anything to do with God or spirituality. So I was a little bit surprised by that.
I think, Sarah, that like Elsie was saying, it's the particular site that we shared. I think if you find a different Enneagram site, that it might not have as much to do with God or faith or religion.
So do you think that they would have different questions for the test or just different explanations for the results of the same questions?
Probably slightly different explanations of the results. The questions for the test should be relatively the same. For that Myers-Briggs test or the 16 personality test we took, what threw me off on those questions is some of them were like, I really enjoy blah, blah, blah. And other ones said, I do not like blah, blah. Yeah, I really had to read that carefully because there were times I was like, oh, I completely agree. And then I was like, oh, wait, it says I do not like. So I double negative. I agree that I disagree that I do not like because I really do like it. I got caught up in that a few times on that 16 personality test one, although I couldn't force different results. So apparently didn't have that much of an impact.
For the Enneagram one, was it that one? Yeah, I felt like I needed a thesaurus because I felt like those things really mean the same thing, because if I'm agreeing to this, then I'm also agreeing to that. Maybe they're actually the same thing.
It's been I didn't retake the Enneagram because here's my confession. I did not want it to tell me that I was something other than a 7. So maybe I did care a little bit, but so I didn't retake it. And I don't really remember the questions, I guess. I thought that I thought that it was like just a kind of think about it and answer it pretty quick kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember because at the end of episode 16, I think you had Mark take the test, and we found out Mark was a 7.
And
then
Dean
we
is a 7.
found out Dean was a 7.
Yep.
I apparently surround myself with 7s. Sarah, did Bill take the Enneagram?
I don't think he has.
Well,
It's not exactly his
Bill?
thing.
Bill, we challenge you to take the Enneagram test.
That's right. We'll send
Let
him
us
an
know
unofficial challenge
what
email.
let us know what your number is, dude.
What's your number?
What's your number?
So do you guys, have you ever taken a personality test at work or in therapy or anything like that? Do you guys agree with that? Or do you think that should just kind of play out naturally?
No, I love it. We did a lot of this, not at my current job, but at my last job, we did a lot of this. And what was interesting is that I was always way out in left field. It's like everybody, all the results were over here, and I'm way over here, the only one in the room that had these particular results. And so, which I actually kind of liked. But what I like about them at work, we did Myers-Briggs, and we also did Strengths Finders. And I really like the Strength Finders test a lot. I mean, it got very specific. But what I like about it is when you're building a team, I really did use those results to help me build my team, because I have some really good strengths, and then I have some areas where I'm just not strong. And so it helps to have, like, once you get down in the dirty details, I'm bored and done, and I want to sneak away. But there are people on my team that are really good down in the details and aren't doing the other big picture thinking things. So I really liked it at work.
We did the DISC profile as part of a leadership class at my old job, and I found it really helpful because it basically talks about your work style, and I found it to be very accurate, but it also talks about how that particular work style can work with other work styles and how to kind of get past where you guys might butt heads. So I found it helpful for work. I don't know if it really translated into my personal life, but it definitely seemed accurate for my work style.
I remember you taking the DISC test. I still need to take that one. And I had not heard of Strength Finder until Jacob Norby was talking about it last week. I forget which one they did at my old job, but when they did it, it was all the higher ups, and then they printed it on a big poster board for everybody to see. And it was kind of like highlighting, here's all the important people and their personalities, and we don't care about the rest of you, little shrimp. I think in that situation, it wasn't very helpful, but I think in your own individual teams where you're working individually, I can see where that could be very helpful.
I remember during my my psych rotation as a medical student, we all did the Myers-Briggs, and that was like a million years ago. So I can't even remember what we even did with the results. I think we discussed them, but I don't even remember. It was a very, very different test back then, back in the olden days. So I don't remember how it turned out then. I couldn't possibly tell you what my results were back then.
I took one with, everybody that I worked with took, I think it was the DISC profile, Jess, that we did when I worked for the IT company where I was working when I met TC. And the purpose behind it was so that we could all learn how to sort of work together. And I feel like it was pretty helpful. I learned that some people on my team aren't really good with like details, and they're more high level people. And I kind of wanted details and needed to learn about those things. Like, you got to give me more kind of thing. So that was interesting to figure out or understand why there was friction. I guess it was helpful in that aspect.
So with that, do you think it's more important to know other people's types or what yours is, and to be able to effectively communicate how you work? For
me, I think it's important to my type, and it has, I actually, I'm going to say both. I need to know my type so that I can know where my gaps are. And if I'm building a team, I'm going to want to fill those gaps. So I think it's important to know your own type and to know the members of your team's types as well, so that you can look for the gaps and fill them.
I don't know if it really, like, I don't think I would remember what everybody's types are, but I think it did help me recognize the different types, and just, you know, recognizing where my shortcomings are and why I might be feeling friction, like TC was saying, with certain people, and just to help kind of learn how to work around those things and recognize why that is so annoying to me or so frustrating to me. And it's like, oh, well, you know, they just have a different work style, and kind of turn it around to be, well, let's use that to my advantage. I don't like micromanaging. So if somebody else likes the little details, let's let them take care of it, and I'll just take care of something else.
I don't know that it's any of my business to really know what other people's types are. I guess, I don't know. I feel like if I know what I am, I can explain like, hey, this is how I work. And if, I don't know, I'm never going to remember what everybody's is, like what Jess said. But
yeah, I had a team of 17. There's no way I would have been able to remember.
Yeah.
So in my company, we did the same. We spent a lot of time when we did strength finders. We spent a lot of time looking and understanding everybody's strengths. What I liked about that particular one is it did concentrate on your strengths. And I do believe that it makes more sense to spend time strengthening your strengths than to try to strengthen your weaknesses, because if everybody works on strengthening their weaknesses, it brings everyone to like this mid-range. And I'm not a big fan of mid-ranges. I want to get way up there. And so if everybody works on strengthening their strengths and knowing what they are, then you've got people shining where they need to shine, and you can get teammates that shine in other areas. So we did the same. We put them all on charts, and we all spent a lot of time understanding what everyone else was and who we needed to partner with.
We did the same thing in my office. We had like a half a day. I had a small office, so there were only like, I don't know, 6 of us or 8 of us. We spent a half day going through talking about the disc profile. I mean, we were very focused on it and got really kind of nitty gritty with it. And it helped. I didn't remember what everybody's type was, but I remembered how they like to communicate, or I remembered how they, I don't know, different aspects of working with them. I remembered that. I didn't really need to remember the type. I just remembered how I should be working with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's extremely important to know, to understand where your shortcomings are. Like you all said, you have to be self-aware. I feel like the people that drive me the most crazy in any career, any job I've ever had, are the people that are just not self-aware. I think it's very important to know that you're talking too much, to know that, I don't know, you just have to know who you're dealing with.
I think that we did actually at the actual class, which was a leadership class, so it was all the leaders in the company, we did all come up and put a dot on, like, we didn't put our name, but we just put a dot on there where we are. And I think that it would be very telling if, like LC said, if you have a chart and everybody in a leadership position is on one side and everybody else is not, I think that there's no way that something can sustain like that. I mean, think about if everybody on this soapbox was type 7, like, you know, it would be a whole episode of, I loved this. Okay, that's it. Thanks for listening. Bye. You know, like, I think for balance, there has to be. And also, if everybody hates doing a certain task, then that task isn't going to get done. and everybody just wants to focus on one thing and not do this other part. I think that for balance in a workplace, I think that you need different personalities and different work styles and leadership styles. And
Guess what annoyed me about that in the workplace setting is that it felt like the company would always get a bug up their butt to, oh, let's bring everybody together and all take a test at the same time. And it's team building and blah, blah, blah. And then like people leave and then new people come in and then you don't know, then you're in this weird mix where it's almost like you need a nameplate and underneath your nameplate, you have that, or in your email signature under she, her, and your pronouns or whatever, you also have your Enneagram type and your personality type. And because like otherwise it just kind of gets lost in the sauce eventually. My old director used to say, and it drove me nuts, but it makes so much sense. He used to say, put their aces in their places. And, put the people with their strengths, put them where they want to be. And it's just like TC said, because if you don't, then everybody's just kind of mediocre. Everybody's strength should be working towards their strengths. I want to take that next. I want to do Strength Finder next. What does anybody else think?
No, I'm thinking the same. I want to do Strength Finders and DISC, so we can do another episode where we compare those two with these two.
So I took,
Yeah,
sorry.
Go.
I took Strengths Finder when I started with not my current therapist, but the therapist before her. And that was, I had never, well, I probably heard of it through your previous job, TC, but I don't think I took it with you guys. But I did take it when I started therapy with her. It was like one of the first 2 sessions she had me take it. And it was for the same reason that TC mentioned, if you know where your strengths are, you can sort of focus on those areas and that'll bring you, I don't know, it'll make your life better than focusing on the things that you're not good at, and dwelling on them.
But okay, here's the thing. You take a personality test. That's how you perceive yourself and not how maybe others perceive you.
I thought about that too. I wonder if the other Sirens, like, what if we took this Myers-Briggs and I said, I'm going to answer all these questions based on what I think Myrrh would, what is correct for Myrrh. And I'm going to answer all these questions based on what I think is correct for Jess and what I think is correct for Sarah. I wonder how closely my results would be to the person that I was trying to keep in mind when I answered the questions.
Ooh, that'd be a fun experiment.
apparently mine would all come out the same because y'all nailed mine. You guys already did, apparently.
Except for, like I apparently don't know anyone because I'm always wrong on these things. So there's that.
I think it'd be fun though.
Always wrong too, so I'm right there with you.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Sarah?
I'm always wrong too, so.
I think there's probably some truth to everybody's perception of everybody else.
Yeah, true.
Well, I guess
There
you're
is-
all as explorers, so you're welcome.
Thank you.
That's what we
appreciate that.
wanted to be. There is that thing that talks about, the side of you know, and the side of you that other people know. So we can talk about that too.
Yeah, that's an interesting little rabbit hole. So our challenge for our listeners this week is to take a personality test and let us know if the results surprise you or if you agree with them. And just so you know, we took the assessment available at 16personalities.com, but you can take whatever test appeals to you and then tell us about it by using the hashtag Siren Soapbox on all the social medias. Sirens, thank you so much for sharing your personality types. These episodes, you guessed it, Jess, always make me feel closer to you. And I just love that so much. The campaigner loves to form deep connections after all. So thank you all for obliging me. And thank you, fellow explorer, for listening to this episode. Follow the Sirens on Facebook to get a daily dose of awesomeness and check out our website, sirensoapbox.com, for even more Siren Soapbox goodness. Maybe you prefer to watch over listening. That's cool. We have a solution for that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening now. That will help us reach more people like you. Until next time, dive in, stay curious, and be happy. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Siren Soapbox, and a special thank you to C Strings for providing our music. Snag their latest EP from iTunes today. Follow the Sirens on all the social medias, and don't forget to tell your friends about us. Like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll catch you next time on another episode of Siren Soapbox.